Hello, Ardent Wives, or our listeners out there. Welcome back to the Ardent Wife Podcast. I am Tiffany Phillips, one of your co-hosts, and I am so super excited for this new series we are doing called Ardent Love. And today, Dee and Jen, my normal co-hosts, we have, in addition to us, our first couple. Dr. K, who's been on the podcast before, and his lovely wife, Beth. And we are so excited that the two of you have come to be our first guinea pigs. Not just kidding. No, it's going to be good. Thank you so much for agreeing to share your story with us. Basically, this series was born out of a desire to see marriage be honored in the way that God intends for it to be, so people can see the blessing and the beauty of marriage, and to have encouragement in their marriage, and to know that you are not alone, And so we hope that this series is that for people, for couples, and encouragement, inspiration, all those things. Hope, sometimes, you find yourself hopeless in your marriage, and this could be the thing, that gives you the strength to fight another day.
And we just got tired of bragging about our marriages. No, I'm kidding. Seriously, we wanted to highlight other marriages in the kingdom and what they look like, because we all do it differently. And so I'm so grateful, Dr. K and Mrs. K, that you guys to share your love story and how you guys do marriage. So thank you.
Yeah, well, so thanks for having us. It's actually a real blast, and we're gonna brag on our marriage. Trust me.
Good.
So why don't you guys share, how long you've been married? How many kids do you have? Share a little bit about that to start.
So we've been married. It'll be 26 years this year. 3 children, 1 in college, 2 in high school, and we built our own home about 15 years ago. We had the privilege of building a home, literally and figuratively. So we've been in this existing home for about 15 years now, and like most marriages, it's been a wild roller coaster ride, but I mean, I wouldn't trade most of it for anything. So
nobody gets excited about the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right. Awesome. And then do you guys have any hobbies you share together or things that you do apart?
We met through horseback riding.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah. I had horses growing up, and we loved to ride. I mean, we had great trails behind my house, and so we'd go for hours just ride, and so that was kind of how we met.
We're 90s nightclub kids.
Yeah.
So we really loved to dance. We met at a club. When you did that sort of thing. And we did actually see each other across the room. And
what you can't tell from this podcast is so he's 6'2", I'm actually 5'10", so that's pretty tall for a woman. So
and the people we came with, which is really funny, my friend was 5'6", and your friend was
like 5'2".
They met each other and left the tall people to do nothing, and we kind of met each other through that.
So you saw each other above the crowd.
Yeah.
And so was it like this movie, how you see the guy across the room and the guy sees the girl and it's like love at first sight? Is that what it was? And
I saw him over all the heads, and I just, I thought, he's cute.
Yeah. I saw her and I was like, now that's someone I'd like to meet.
Yeah. So what's funny is he kind of took his time. I was kind of trying to catch his eye the whole night, and he took his time asking me to dance. So when he finally did, the club closed about 5 minutes later.
So awful. All almost let her get away, but my group of friends were like, dared me to go over and get her number. And had not my friends dared me to go get her number.
Were you feeling shy?
I was coming, I went out that night under duress. I was like, I just don't want, and Beth will tell her story. She equally was not going to go out that night. And I don't know, I don't know what I was feeling. I guess I had been so out of the loop and out of the circle that I was like, I don't even know what this is like anymore. But I was very thankful that God had better plans than I did.
And the whole cliche about, meeting in a club, I was like, that doesn't happen. What's
And just to be a little romantic, I actually went back and proposed to her at that club.
Yeah. Aww. So you redeemed the 5 minutes before the club closed.
Like, I'm gonna make a lifetime move.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think what else we did. We really so we liked to dance. We did horseback riding. I think we like movies.
Movies, we like our whole family. We're huge movie buffs, and in fact, our oldest is currently he just finished up junior year of college, and he's kind of minoring in film, so that's kind of just escalated our whole interest in movies and whatnot.
And we read. We really like the beach.
Yeah,
I think
we
love going to the beach and walking on the beach and hopefully retiring on the beach.
We're kind of morphing into late life hikers too. We got invited. We got invited to. We're going to with another couple of ours. We're going hiking in Utah. We're going to tour the national parks in September. So we're kind of excited about that. But we've always enjoyed the outdoors and just being active together, which I think is so important in any marriage relationship nowadays. I feel like people don't take the time to just figure out if they actually like the person they're with. Do you enjoy the same things? Do you like doing those things while looking at that person? I mean, it's such a little thing, but it's something that's just so important when it comes to marriage or even friendship.
And what's interesting is that from the I can't remember who it is, if it's C.S. Lewis, The Four Loves. I think it's C.S. Lewis wrote a book called The Four Loves, and so marriage love is eros. It's very sort of it's elevated, it's romantic, it's sexualized, and so everybody thinks that like eros is what you should be aiming for, and realistically, the agape and phileo, which are these friendship and deep connective type loves, is what you start with. And you don't trade those out for eros. You don't leave your friendship behind to go for intimacy. You actually add to the friendship to get intimacy. And I think if you don't build your relationship on friendship, you can't get to intimacy to its full capacity.
I completely agree with that. Me and my husband were best friends for 3 years before we even started dating. So I agree with that.
And when you were talking, I can hear someone saying like, I don't want to be around my husband that much, or I don't want to be around my spouse that much. What would you say to, like, do you have things that you do separate and then things that you do together? Or what would you say to that? How can they develop something where it's like we actually enjoy doing things together instead of apart?
Well, I think like one of the things that intrigued me about him when we first met was he's always a curious person, and so we tried different things together that we probably wouldn't have when we met. So that was a great way to get to know each other. He was into the gym and working out, and I was like, oh, that's not for me.
Well, in fact, you were a swimmer, so I started trying to swim.
Yeah.
And I am buoyantly challenged, let's just say. So I learned a lot about swimming through her.
So, but we get to try new things, and I think even for people that have been married for a long time and don't do anything together, I think it's an excuse to try something new. What keeps you young and just kind of frankly engaged in life, for lack of a better term.
And one of the most important things for men is companionship. We the way God designed us is we need playmates. We need people to do things side by side. Women, you can sit them in a circle with a pot of coffee and there's communication. Men, you can't do that with men. Men have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're not having your wife as a playmate, one, your wife has to start getting interested in the things you're interested in. And it's unfortunate that's part of what playmates do. Equally, as a husband, you have to get interested in what your wife is interested in, so you have a playmate that way.
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, I'm always like, when we go to reunions and parties, there's a group of men and a group of women, and I'm always like, why do you not hang out with your wives, and do couples components? It's like this men's and women's stuff, and it's always sort of odd because I'm like, I like my wife. I want to hang out with her. I understand what she's talking about. Why would I like, oh, finally we're here. Now we can separate,
Yeah.
It's sort of a bizarre thing. So if I'm, talking to a couple or other one, and you say, well, we want to do things on our own. It's like, well, why? What is it about your marriage, or what is it about your spouse that creates that desire to be alone? I would want to sort of seek out those roots. And nothing against introversion. I'm a complete introvert, and so I get the idea of wanting to be alone, but not wanting to spend time with the woman that you've chosen to spend the rest of your life with. There's some roots worth exploring if that's going on.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, do you, both of you, consider the activity that you're going to explore based on each other? So like, do you see something new and you're like, hey, I think Chris would like that, or oh, hey, I think Beth would like that, let's try this together? Or do you just find something that you might like and you're like, hey, come, let's do this?
So sometimes, either or both.
I think so too.
Because before our wedding, we actually took ballroom dance lessons, and I had nothing to do with that because I have 2 left feet, and I was like, there's no way, I'm going to get in. And that was really enjoyable for us. And we actually did a few like little minor competitions around town and stuff. And so, long time ago, I'm probably back with my 2 left feet again, but it was something we did together and something we really enjoyed doing together. So
I think some of the key components is listening. When you say this, she'll, the only one I can think of is like she'll, and so I'm thinking about like getting things more than doing things. Like one of the things that you talked about was this great bag that you had. This like, I don't remember where you found it. It was like this over the arm bag. It was that camel colored bag.
Oh, yeah.
And then she wore that thing out, and then it was like, there was holes and frays and stuff like that. And it was getting to be your birthday. And I searched high and low through the internet to find this bag for your birthday, I think, for your birthday, or something like that. And I think when it's just listening and making, if you're a note maker, taking notes and like, that's what my spouse likes. So it's just like, I got to remember that. So that way, when some sort of occasion occurs, I can remember what my spouse likes. That way I know what to order at the restaurant. I know what flowers to get. I know what shirt he likes. And it's just like, I know what sort of shoes he's into, and or what sort of trips he might want to go on, or what sort of sports he likes to be interested in. I think a lot of it is just listening, actively listening and catching those particular, this is what I would like. This is what I'm interested in.
Yeah, I definitely say I probably make that hard. I'm like, you know how many times my coffee order has changed over the past 20 years? My poor husband, because I'm like, it changes so often. He tries, and I'm like, I don't like that anymore.
Oh, poor Rondi.
Now he has to come up with your next favorite order. He has to surprise you.
Yes.
So communication is key.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And I think especially if one of the individuals in the marriage, if that's their quote love language, if talking is their love language.
Yeah, that can be difficult because he's more of a talker than myself. So.
Really?
I mean, one of the things again that drew me to him when we were dating is he always knew the right questions to ask. I think that's one of the things that makes him such a good position too, is that he just knows the right questions to ask. And that, because I'm not a talker, that can actually get me
drawing
you get me
out.
thinking about, so like, okay, what's really going on here and how can we make this better, or, how can we solve this problem kind of thing. So.
And for listeners, one of the things that, if you're not skilled at sort of asking the right questions, one of the things that we stumbled upon was the Gottman Institute app called Card Decks, CARDDECKS. And we've used that a lot in our marriage. When you go to Little League games and dance recitals, or you're picking up your son at the airport, and you just have this empty time. And as children, you've lost the skill set of dating.
Yeah.
And there are these questions that come up. It's like, well, in the next 3 years, what architectural changes do you want to make to the house and why? And it's like, oh, I never even thought about that. What would you change if we could change to the house? And then I think one of the most powerful ones we came across was, what are one of your dreams that is yet unfulfilled? I'll remember it's the day I died. We were waiting at Bradley, waiting to pick up our son. And we had asked that question, and I thought I knew what Beth's dream was. She said, yeah, that's right. And I was talking about, well, we could probably do this, that, and the other. And then I said, what about me? And she said what my dream was. And I said, I have been trying to hide that from you for 15 years. And she said, I can see it in your face, like every weekend. And I was like, wow. I said, you really know me. You just really know me. I didn't want you to know that part of the unfulfilled part of my life. And but you know it because you know me. And it was really sexy and romantic.
I bet.
This girl knows me.
One of the things, and I can't remember if it was before we were married or throughout our marriage or someone, and I wish I could give credit to who I heard it from. They said, most successful marriages occur because you become a lifelong student of your spouse. You are constantly studying your spouse, looking for things, because let's face it, we're not the same people we were when we were married 26 years ago. I mean, so much happens in life to shape you and form you, and you're a different person, day to day, month to month, year to year. And so if you stop studying your spouse, not only you're going to miss out on meeting new people, a new person every day, but you're going to miss out on the person that they're becoming. And
to dovetail that, when I have husbands that sit down and sort of talk about the disconnect in their marriage, I tell them, you don't need to have a PhD in women, but you need to have a PhD in one woman. And that, it's actually been, we joke, basically I've been married to 10 women in the course of this marriage. She's been married to like 25 men.
What I love about that is that, I think what I hear often, right, is that this expectation, well, he should know or she should know, right? That mindset helps people to be active. Like, I don't need to be passive and just wait, but I can be a student, and then, my spouse can be a student, but there's a responsibility in a good way to say, I can be active in my marriage by studying and pursuing. And I guess I have a question about that because I think there sometimes for women, I this is what I hear amongst women, this place of, well, he should know, and that expectation, and so how, Beth, because you kind of you said that, and I think it's really key. So have you ever had another sister or a woman in your life be like, well, he should know, and I don't want to say, and he should, what would you say to that?
I would say you're losing time, and you should either tell him or ask him what's on your mind, because no person is like the great Zambini. They're not going to read your mind. And if they get it wrong, it's frustrating for them, and it causes unnecessary anxiety. And I mean, marriage is hard enough without making it a game and making it a game. So if you can help your spouse be a better spouse, then why not do that? Like if you would love for your husband to make coffee in the morning instead of you, like, ask him, hey, would you make coffee on Wednesdays and Saturdays or whatever, just so I don't have to, and And it's amazing how those little things can turn into, another thing and another thing and another thing. So, I mean, I think one of the sexiest thing for me was when we were deep into, little kids was, oh my gosh, she's going to change that nasty diaper for me. That one today, so
yeah.
I mean, just those little things.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the things I think makes that challenging is the history and traditions that we each bring to our marriages. So, I mean, I grew up in a home, and I learned what men do from my dad. I learned what women do from my mom, and I brought that to the marriage. Beth grew up in a home. She learned what men do from her dad. She learned what women do from her mom. She brought that to the marriage. That doesn't always line up. So I may have certain expectations based on what I learned. She may have certain expectations on what she learned, but we're theoretically forming a new bond, a new tradition. We're obviously going to bring our own traditions to that, but we have to be flexible enough to know that this is a brand new tradition and that the rules of engagement are going to be completely different in our marriage.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily be our parents' marriage.
Yeah.
And I think that in itself has probably like set so many people free. Just listening, like hearing you, Beth, say that marriage is hard enough without making it a game. It's just like, because I think, I mean, that stepped on my toes. I mean, I had to pick them up. I was like, ouch. Because, I think as women, we play these, like, well, he should know, it's like I sit on my side of the fence and I'm just like, I'm not telling him that, and just make it a game. But it's like, why not? Why not? It's make the marriage better, if that enables him to love you better or,
and it's amazing what you can accomplish if you just ask.
Yeah.
I mean, he might love to make coffee. It's just you made it all the time, and he just did.
Yeah.
I love how you said
subtle things like, how come we don't sit at the end of the day and talk like we used to? It's like, well, I've got to put the dishes away and I've got to shower. And I'm like, well, why don't I put the dishes away while you shower? That'll save time, and then we can talk. And it's like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. I think my favorite eye opener, and they're just really little things. I would come home and I would have my lunchbox because I take my lunch to work, and I have my shaker bottles with all this stuff, and she would be at the sink, and I would empty my bag right into the sink, right? Yeah, right. Tiffany, you got it. I'd be like, well, you're at the sink, you're cleaning dishes. I mean, it seems like a logical thing to me. And then I think one day it was just like, can you not do that? And I was like, what is that? And she said, when you just put your dirty dishes in the sink, I feel devalued.
Yeah.
And I was like, really? I was like, I just really, okay. So then honestly, putting them on the table instead of in the sink was the game changer, because then I wash them. I don't wash them all the time. And what's interesting is when I didn't put them in the sink, she washed them as a result because she didn't feel devalued. So I was like, oh, this is okay. Thank you for telling me. I had no idea. And it made it mine. So
I know. And it's that small thing. I was the same way. I was like, I feel like you don't, like I'm your maid service. Like I'm your housekeeper. I'm like, I'm not your housekeeper. I don't throw no dishes.
I just
yeah, my gosh.
Yes.
Right.
Beth, I'm there with you.
And I love how Beth put it too. She said, so you can help your husband, because that's what we're called to do, right? We're Azers, we're his helpmate. And it's not, I feel like sometimes we nag our husbands thinking that it's helping our husbands, but making suggestions, right, might go a little bit longer and more effective than getting on them over and over again about something.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll tell you one of the most amazing things that she has done for me most recently. We had just finished a marriage series about having your spouse's traditions add to yours rather than seeing it as a competition or getting rid of your own traditions. So it's like you have this amazing other individual with their own ideas and their own traditions and their own styles. Why would you not add them into the problem solving component? And so as a result, I was saying, I pulled Beth aside and I said, I need somebody to do the business component of the practice, and I'm at a loss. And I tried to protect you from that because I didn't want you to be involved in that and so on. And I said, but I don't know what to do. To which she said, did you ever think of the business manager at my office? Because she's a consultant. And I said, would you set that up for me? And I don't even know, I think in 24, 48 hours, she set it up for me. We hired her, and it's been a dramatic change. Had I just sort of kept it all internal and not sought out counsel from my wife, because I'm I should be able to handle it on my own, because that's what you did in my household. It's like, I would be circling the drain still, so, and she saved the business aspect of the practice with her ideas. And had I not incorporated her, added her in, I would have missed out.
Yeah. So you've given a lot of tips on secret sauce, but what would you guys say is, like, for you, each of you, kind of a secret sauce that has helped your marriage sustain and have some deep love?
Oh my word. I know what I want to say. Dates are really important, especially with children. I think time where you date and talk to one another is really important. I'm not going to dance around it. Sex is really important. I think that having intimacy with your wife is really important. And I would say that if one of you is not in the mood, get in the mood, because you don't know when it's going to happen, especially with timing and children. I've learned that, because there are times when I'm not in the mood and she's in the mood, and I've learned that it all turns out awesome if you just get in.
Right. You never regret it.
It's not that hard to get in the mood. So dating is really important. Intimacy is really important.
And I again, I wish I could remember who I heard this from, but I heard the phrase, "Don't marry the one you can live with, marry the one you can't live without." And I remember when we were dating, I had all these like scenarios in my head. Well, what if this? What if that? What if this? And everything it came down to was like, he's the one. Like, I want to be with him. Like he's the one. And we had issues. Like, our marriage has not been perfect. Our dating was not perfect by any means. And still, at the end of the day, I was like, nope, I don't see myself with anybody else.
And one of the things we said before the podcast, it was from the marriage seminar. It was the advice within the marriage seminar that you are going to fight with somebody for the rest of your life. Do you want it to be Beth? And we saw that component come out, and both of us looked at each other, and I was like, yeah, I actually want to fight with you for the rest of my life. And she was like, yeah, I do too. And and we've had really good fights, to say the least. And we've learned how to fight fair. I think that's actually an important part of learning how to fight fair.
Yeah.
The way to fight unfair, by the way, is to compare strengths to weaknesses. You always win when you compare strengths to weaknesses. When you compare strengths to strengths and weaknesses to weaknesses, that's fighting fair. I could not live without this woman. She's been amazing. So yeah, I want to fight with her for the rest of my life. I want to fight with her for the rest of my life. So dating, intimacy, fighting fair, and realizing that you can't live without this person.
And just have some fun together. Like,
she's all about that too.
Yeah.
I'm not so good at that. So I'm thankful for that.
And it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't. I mean, one of the things I love to do is, especially so June is my absolute favorite month in New England weather-wise. Like, we have these long days, and the weather's gorgeous. The sky is blue. I love after supper. We're kind of winding down, just to take our dog for a walk.
Yeah.
Just to walk around the neighborhood and just kind of.
And the other thing that we like to do, is this is old married couple stuff. We play cards.
Yeah.
I never thought that would happen. We play cards. We play games. We try to have our kids play some. And we used to do, I think every Christmas, we would buy the #1 game that was rated that year, even if we didn't know what it was about, and we would just bring it in. I think we stopped about 10 years in, because we're like, we don't have any space for anything left. So, and they're like, and it's so, in a world where it's so, and I'm guilty of this, in a world where it's so easy to be distracted by a screen and just go into the rabbit hole of minutes to hours in a screen. A walk and a game is not expensive and really creates, because you create creativity, communication. It's great.
Yeah.
Now, you two, the two of you have been married 26 years. And what would you say to a young couple who's like, we are just trying to survive? We have little kids. What did you do different in that phase of your marriage to keep it, the flame and the passion?
Well, I think especially that phase with little kids and stuff, I've got to say it's hard. I think that's the toughest, because as a mom, I was so focused on the kids and making sure that they had their needs met and stuff. I'm sure I neglected him. He was very kind and never voiced that, but I'm sure he was neglected. But I think, I wish I had a magic pill for that, but I feel like, you always hear about the different seasons of marriage.
That's the word I was looking for. Seasons is a big key to that.
I think that's a season that you have to, I hate to say tough it out, because you don't want to miss it either, because your kids grow up so fast. But I think that's probably the season where you really have to, if a couple weeks go by and you've not had a date, you really need to get out there and do something, even if it's just an hour or two, just to take the dog for a walk, like I said, because that can be a tough and enjoyable time as well. But sometimes you just gotta tough it out, and it can be a few weeks, it could be a few months, it could be a few years, but it does get better, if you work together. And I think during those times especially, it's so important to talk to your spouse and tell them, ask them what they need or what you need, especially as a tired mom who's functioning on no rest. It's I remember there are times I said, I would just love to vacuum, this rough thing. And I just want to vacuum, but I don't have the energy. Would you?
And I would take them to the playground, and occasionally I would take them to Mystic Marine Life Aquarium. I would pack them in the car and say, "We got the whole day." It wouldn't happen that often, so I'm no superhero. But I put them in the car, and I would take them for the day and say, do whatever you want.
And it would give the kids priceless alone time with their dad.
Yeah.
And it would give me a time to just be a human again, and not a mom and a maid and a teacher and a cook and and it's okay, I can just need one day and I can do it again for a little while. So
I think a lot of our moms or listeners can totally relate to that. We get that. Yeah, for sure. Something that I'm hearing from both of you, though, is the intentionality that you put in that season. Although it was a challenge, grew the marriage to where you are now, so that you are more intentional on how you love each other.
I got some really sound advice from my therapist that said you have to picture it as you and me against the world. And I don't know if that's necessarily biblical, but it certainly spoke to the inner superhero that I want to be, where it was just all right, this is a broken, evil place, and we got kids, and it's you and me against everybody else. And so that created an interesting unity that we would fall back on all the time. So when we had to make decisions, it's you and me against whatever. It's you and me against whatever. And it created, I don't know, a little bit more of an adventure than a drudgery of that particular season.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
With your Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
And I know a little while back, you were saying about the question you asked, and your wife guessed what it was, what you've been trying to hide from her. So I have to ask, was that to be a superhero? Because you just mentioned you always wanted to be a superhero.
I'm a 56-year-old married with 3 children. That is a superhero.
Amen. A mic drop. I agree. Mic drop.
I think so. To spin that around, one of my favorite lines of The Incredibles is when the family is captured, and Mr. Incredible says, "You're my greatest adventure," and I almost missed it. So to that end, about being the superhero, Beth and my children is my greatest adventure, and foolishly, I almost missed it. So yeah, I think I'm a superhero because I stayed, because I'm in it, and I want to be the husband and the dad that God intends me to be. And that is worthy of superhero status, even though most men in the world do not believe that.
Yeah, but don't wear a cape.
The mode would be proud.
Wait, I wanted a cape. I thought he was gonna bust it out.
Okay. This is amazing. I'm so glad you guys were our
Me too.
That's fun, Kai, though. And I see 26 years while you guys are still making each other smile, still doing marriage. And just the way Dr. K speaks of you, Beth, I was so excited to meet you because he just has so much reverence for you. And it's so clear when he shares here on the podcast, when he does his segments with us. So you are lovely. And I see why he fell in love with you. Amazing woman. And just thank you guys for being our first.
Yes. I'm learning so much. It's like, if this was just for me, it's like, okay, thank you, Jesus.
Wait on those show notes.
I know.
Wait. Can we do the rapid fire? I am curious about the rapid fire.
Darn us. Okay.
How about
Who takes longer to get ready?
Oh, I think that's a draw, honestly.
Oh, please. Maybe for a formal event. Okay. Like, no.
So that's interesting. Okay, we'll leave that one there.
Let's say it depends. The urgency of the situation and the desire of each one. But I'll consider it a draw. Fine.
All right. Who's the crier?
Easy. Hands down. I think for one, every movie we go to, I will cry. My kids laugh. Dad's gonna cry at this one.
That's my husband too. Even commercials, he cries. I look over, I'm like, dude, it's a commercial.
The ice water that's in my wife's veins. We were watching this movie where the line was I bet he killed her in the bathtub for all the mess. And to which she said, that's a good idea. Whoa.
That comes from a person who was cleaning up all the dishes. It's like, I don't want to have to clean it up. It's like, it makes it easier. So who's the best cook? Who's the better cook of the
by far? Oh my gosh. He is by far.
And what's your favorite? Go ahead.
I've learned from him because I cooked when we were first married.
So to go back to that, what was interesting is that when I moved to Boston in medical school, there was the previous owner of the apartment had a Bon Appetit magazine subscription, and it would come to the house. And one of the things that we said was like, hey, we get this every month. Let's make something from this magazine. It didn't always go well, but it got us into like really sort of trying new things and trying to, so like, it was just like, hey, there's a reason this is here. Let's start using this.
Oh, wow. So what is it that you ask him to cook over and over again?
Anything.
Oh, just anything.
Yeah, anything. But it's funny, when we were dating, he actually he made rabbit for me, which was really good. And we've always been, that's another thing that
Are you going to tell the rest of the story? Or
we're adventurous eaters. We love to eat.
Don't you want to know the rest of the story?
Yes.
Yes. I'm like, you just don't say you make rabbit. I'm like, RABBIT. Like, we can't glaze over that.
How did we eat the rabbit?
So we had a picnic in the living room. We had the
Or
shut up.
So we'll edit that part. Let's just say it was the best rabbit I ever had. Mm.
That's why that was mentioned. That was love it.
So that was really fun, and that's good. So we made rabbit, and we were romantic. We actually, because we were young, we made rabbit, and I was like, we read it in a book somewhere. We were like, let's eat it this way, and like, it was really fun. So
okay, listeners, thank you so much for joining us here on our first episode in this series of Ardent Love. We hope that this episode was an encouragement for you, that you learned something. If you were like me, you probably got your toes stepped on a few times, or maybe you took away some nuggets. I know I'm taking away some things that will definitely help me in my marriage, and I hope the same is true for you. So until next time, we pray that this episode blesses you. Please share it with a friend. And until next time.